online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
A very good evening. Welcome along to the latest edition, see I've stopped counting them, of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Is it 14? I think it's 14.
I think it is. Can I just say, I like the fact that the newsreader sounded really surprised that Arsenal are beating Dundalk. you think, well, they're a League of Ireland side. Really, Arsenal should be beating them.
Thanks for that.
Apologies if you're listening on the podcast, because that'll make no sense at all. Oh no, I've thrown Colin now as well.
Yeah, no, so it's fine.
I think it's fair enough for us to be commenting on football things as they happen during the show.
Yeah, of course.
I know it's the Wycombe Wanderers Show, but we can talk about other football things just in a minor way. off topic, as they say on email things.
They do say that, don't they?
They do, yes.
So
anyway, as you were saying, a very good evening, and yes, you have stopped counting the number of shows, which is good.
Thank you. Coming up this evening, we'll review. We'll find out how Arsenal and Dundalk are getting on throughout the evening. We'll review Bob's trips to Preston and Barnsley, but also Wickham were there as well.
It's been quite a northern odyssey the last few days, and very northern it is too, particularly in Barnsley. Lots of little terraced houses on the way into the ground, as you would expect, and a lovely old stadium as well, or certainly the stadium, the stand that we were in last night. Very, very nice and old-fashioned.
Oh, brilliant. With
wooden seats where you think, goodness me, Barnsley fans have been sitting in those for 100 years. Obviously not last night, because Barnsley is still in Tier 3.
Keep it light. Also, still to come, we'll catch up with Club Director Trevor Stroud about the Trust's event, which is happening on Monday, online.
We will be hearing from Dave Ward, who, of course, is the manager of Wycombe Wanderers Ladies.
And another Dave makes an appearance, Dave Burgess, the 80s defender. He's not in his 80s, he played in the 80s, and he'll be speaking to us very, very soon as well.
Lots to come, and we're also asking you tonight to tell us about your very first Wickham game, because, Collins, yours was...
Barnet in the Capital League President's Cup final. May 1987, and Dave Burgess played in it, although he seems to have very little memory of the occasion.
And did he get a winner's medal from it?
That's a good question, not sure.
Oh, no! You should have asked him that. But, I like the fact, though, it's one of those competitions where you're desperately trying to then remember actually what the competition was called.
I think the Capital League, it was like kind of the reserve league.
I think it was. But anyway, the fact that
you've got to start somewhere.
Your first game as a cup final was quite impressive.
I think Wickham won 2-1 from memory, not certain.
First Wickham game was Northwich Victoria in the GM Vauxhall Conference, as it was then, at Adams Park, when we'd only just recently moved in.
I remember Lord Chris of Friday afternoons, his first game against Corinthian Casuals.
Which is, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yes, do let us know. You can either email studio@wycombsound.org.uk, you can tweet us at Wycombe Sound, you can get in touch with us by all sorts of other methods, I'm sure, as well.
So we will start, anyway, by looking back at the two Wickham games that have been played since we were last on air, starting off with the game against Preston North End, where we drew 2-2. And in some ways, yes, it was a decent point away from home, but at the same time, Preston did not really have to work hard at all for either of their goals, which made it quite a frustrating afternoon, to be honest.
Must have also been frustrating because it looked until quite late on that could have been a win.
Yeah, definitely. It very much it was reminiscent of the Birmingham game. You were thinking, oh, fantastic! Suddenly we were in control at 2-1, and then unfortunately the ball came off Jason McCarthy and went into the net to give Preston a rather undeserved, I felt, 2-2 draw.
Nice for Gareth to be playing against one of his former clubs.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and I mean, again, a little bit sad because also Preston, obviously, they were in Tier 3 as well, so there were no fans whatsoever. And you did think, well, if there had been fans here, I'm sure there would have been a lovely reception for Gareth, because obviously it was the place where he started his Football League career, a club that he returned to 3 times during that career. So definitely, they would have been wanting to pay tribute to him in the same way that actually I think Blackburn Rovers probably would have done as well.
So did you come away feeling, oh, that's a shame, we could have got more from that, or did you come away thinking, oh, a point?
No, you came away feeling, that was a shame. We should have got more. We should have got all 3 points really from that one. But at the same time, as Gareth says, you have to be quite happy that we're now coming away from places like Preston North End, particularly considering that, a couple of seasons ago in the FA Cup they beat us 5-1 at Adams Park, feeling slightly hard done by the fact that we only got a point.
So Bob spoke to Gareth after the game to get his post-match thoughts.
Was that a good point, or was that a disappointing that actually neither of Preston's goals they had to really work for?
No, it's a real positive that we're gutted at getting a point. We did want 3. I thought we did enough to get 3, but obviously if you concede 2 goals, sloppy goals, then you're asking to climb a mountain. I thought we had the better chances in the game. Thought we had some clear-cut ones that we didn't stick in, but pleasing to get back in the game after the first half. Poor goals to give away and 1-0 down at half-time.
Yeah, and then fantastic the way that we came back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, first half, at half-time, I had some choice words, but the lads believed, and like I say, we could have saw it out better. We didn't, but that's the Championship for you, We probably need to start turning some of these points into wins to have a chance of being competitive come after Christmas, staying in this league. But I've got no worries that we will stay in this league, and we keep playing like that, I'm sure we'll be fine.
Yeah, and as I said to you the other day, there's only been 1 Blackburn so far, and also some strange results all the time in the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's really topsy-turvy this, and I think you've got to make sure that you're just consistent in every game, because consistency and that second half performance today is good enough to beat any team in this league, and we're looking forward to each and every game now. It's Championship football, fans are back, that's fantastic. Hopefully we can pick some points up.
What about Anthony Stewart? How's he doing?
Yeah, he's hurt his knee. We'll have to assess that tomorrow. But again, bare bones back 4. But it's a hell of a bare bones, isn't it? It's a great squad we've got. Looking forward to some of the injuries returning. But at the moment, we'll have to make do with what we got.
So, what about this injury list? It seems to be ever growing, or is it not too bad?
It is ever growing, but luckily that we do have certain players who are on their way back. Curtis Thompson, I think in particular, we have missed, and Gareth are saying that he's quite close to returning. Anthony Stewart, I think, is definitely out for a little while, but not quite as bad as was maybe first feared. Anthony Stewart is one of those players that he doesn't go down injured, and if he does go down, then that actually there is something quite significantly wrong. In some ways, the good thing was that actually we had Jason McCarthy playing just in front of the back 4 on Saturday. So once then Anthony went off, obviously Jason then just slotted back in to the defence. In fact, it was more actually. Jack Grimmer then played in the centre, and Jason McCarthy then played on the wing.
Because I guess there are the concerns that obviously Dominic Gape, his injury was only comparatively recent. Uchi, we're still not sure on how far away he is.
Yeah, I mean, so Dominic Gape was back last night. He played in the game against Barnsley, indeed. Yeah, and did do did okay. I mean, to be honest, last night's performance it was a little bit lacklustre. You definitely got the impression that all of those games have finally begun to catch up with us. I think you can probably say it actually about a lot of teams, but yeah, we did look a little bit tired last night. I think Bayo in particularly, we do obviously keep having to rely on him in that he is still our most sort of potent source of goals, and I don't mean that from him scoring them at all, but just actually his little flick-ons. He's got such fantastic touch, and when he's then laying the ball off to a Scott Cashgate, a Daryl Horgan, things happen. But yeah, he does begin to look like he could do with a little break at the minute.
Because I did see a bit of the game last night, and the commentator was saying he hadn't scored in 15 appearances.
Yeah, but actually, I think that's by the by. I don't think that's really important for Wycombe Wanderers. What's important is the fact that he's able to set up so many opportunities. And when we have, when everyone is absolutely fresh. When you've got Bayo sort of in the centre, and then you've got Daryl Horgan, and you've got Scott Cashcat, and you've got Fredon Yedimna, and you've got maybe Anis Mamesi.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Buzzing round Bayo, basically. They're so fast that teams can't necessarily handle just the speed, just the pace of what we can do with those 4 players. But as I say, you begin to think, the amount of fixtures is possibly catching up with us, and it's continues to be relentless until that game against QPR, which is a week on Saturday. We have Coventry now this coming Saturday, and then we have Bournemouth on Tuesday night. So again, hardly any time really, 48 hours between each game, from Barnsley to Coventry, from Coventry then to the AFC Bournemouth game. And AFC Bournemouth, that's not going to be easy. Obviously they went and beat Barnsley 4-0 last Friday. They're not a bad side at all.
So you imagine some changes for the Coventry game on Saturday?
You would think so. Whether or not we've got enough players to be able to significantly sort of juggle the pack, I'm not sure, but we will find out.
So Bob spoke to Gareth once again after the game at Oakwell.
Gareth, when we come to somewhere like Barnsley, you do think, well, this time last year they were in desperate trouble, and look at them now, similarly with Luton as well.
I think you've got to take positives from where Barnsley were at this stage last season. They were probably similar to us, and they survived, and they've proved tonight that they've played that little bit more quality than us, looked a little bit fresher as well, and you know, they had an extra day's rest. They played Friday night, so maybe that's come into it. Let's see where we go now on the weekend. But yeah, really looking forward to picking the boys up, looking at that game, seeing what went wrong, putting the rights, definite positives in there, but just probably game too far. Didn't look ourselves tonight after Preston Saturday.
And just so fine margins tonight, you know, there were just a few little things that didn't go our way. Yeah,
do you know, Barnsley probably deserved the win, and I don't often say that, you know, but if you're not going to be great, then try and stay solid and keep a point. There's a couple of areas for that goal, and you know, like I say, we'll pick the bones out. There'll be no pointing fingers at anyone. It's always me. I'll take the blame. I'm the manager, and I'll be the one putting it right Saturday.
Yeah, a couple of times, you know, Scott Cashgate, the ball didn't just quite fall. All of those sort of things you can look at and think, well, yeah, you know, we were close to a point.
Yeah, but sometimes you got to say the better you play and the harder you work, the luckier you get. It's not just all about falling the right way. So, you know, we're at the races tonight. We will put it right on Saturday. Looking forward to Coventry. We haven't beat them for a while, so can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we owe them a few, thinking back to the Checkatrade Trophy and a few other games like that.
You know, Mark Robbins is a great guy. We'll definitely have a beer together after the game. Probably social distance this current climate, but he's going to become confident because they have done us over the past few years. I might have a few surprises up my sleeve, and looking forward to seeing what we can do now Thursday, Friday, and definitely Saturday.
And what about some of the players who are injured at the moment? What's the update on Anthony Stewart first of all?
Ikpeazu, Tafazoli and Curtis Thompson all very close. Anthony Stewart obviously took a knee injury on Saturday, and we're still waiting for a full assessment and some pictures to come back just to see the extent, but I've heard it's not as bad as we first thought, and hopefully we'll be seeing Anthony very soon.
Fingers crossed. Anthony Stewart, obviously a big miss at the back.
Yes, very much so. You know, the back has been completely solid, really, you know, and definitely Anthony Stewart, a big loss there. One good thing about having Jason McCarthy was that actually we did cause a lot of chaos last night with in-swinging corners, because obviously we now have JJ in-swinging them from one direction, and you can have Jason McCarthy in-swinging them from the other, and actually that did look like our most likely route to goal yesterday. And Barnsley just didn't really know what to do with them, and just managed to scramble them away every time. But still, the set pieces are definitely king as far as Wycombe Wanderers are concerned. And that's fine. That's no bad thing at all.
Absolutely, yes, that works. Look out for more corners in upcoming games. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll be catching up with Club Director Trevor Stroud, talking about the Trust's latest event, which is happening on Monday. We'll hear from Dave Burgess very soon as well, a defender from the 80s. But first, we'll briefly switch our attention to the ladies' team, who return to league action, or their season.
All right.
League season resumes on Sunday away to Abingdon. So they've had a bit of a break due to lockdown 2. They had a friendly against Penn and Tyler's Green, which they did very well against.
9-1, was it?
It was very good.
Yes, very impressive.
Well done to them. But you might recall that they did play 2 games of their league season after a fantastic FA Cup run. And here's Dave Ward, their manager, to assess those games and to look ahead to Sunday's fixture.
The first fixture was away to Woodley, and you're never quite sure what sort of team they've got. They're usually quite a tough opponent, and we managed to dispatch them 4-0, which was very pleasing for the first outing. And then the second game, which was just before lockdown, we played Newbury at home. And again, they're another team that can be very, very difficult and awkward opponents, but we saw them off 9-1. So incredibly pleased, but then obviously going into lockdown, it's proved to be a bit of a challenge. We managed to blow some cobwebs away last week against local neighbours, Penn and Tyler's ladies. They're a few divisions below us, so it wasn't unexpected to get the win, but the margin of victory was pretty good again. It was a 9-0 win. I think the only downside for having played that game was that we picked up another injury to add to my growing injury list, which isn't good. So looking forward to this weekend, it's really going to test the strength and depth of our squad.
And how have the players coped with the disruption in the season?
They've done pretty well, I think. They're all quite self-motivated, and they look to each other to set challenges. They don't necessarily come to myself or Jack Rice, my first-team coach, to ask us what we would suggest. But what they do is they come to us with ideas and say, well, how do you think this will help us with our fitness? Is that the sort of thing that we should be doing? And we normally agree a way forward, and the players just launch into it. So in terms of fitness, I don't think there are any real issues in terms of being able to play 90 minutes. It's just getting hold of the football again and getting the feel of it and getting to understand each other. But with so many changes this coming weekend, we've got 5 on the injury list at the moment out of an available 16 outfield players. So it's made life very challenging. So again, we'll find ourselves depending on a couple of the under-18, some of the stronger players from that team, stepping up and helping us as they did in the friendly at Penn.
It must have been especially pleasing to have got those 2 wins to start your league campaign as well, because it must have felt like you were sort of playing catch-up in a way, because many other the teams in the division had already started because you'd had the FA Cup run.
It's always pleasing to start with 2 victories and not be conceding lots of goals. We've looked a very solid, tight unit this season so far. I think we've only conceded 3 goals in all games this season. We've played something like about 9 games. So, we have done particularly well defensively, and we've got some good quality in key areas, which helps us to kill games off. So I've been very, very encouraged by the group this season so far. And, despite the impact of players not being available this weekend due to injury, it doesn't actually daunt me too much. I've got enough confidence in the players that we're bringing in to go out and to do a job. It's not going to be an easy job because Abingdon United, who we played last season on 4 occasions, honours were pretty even throughout all 4 of those games, all very close fought affairs. And I don't see that this weekend will be very much different. Again, they're one of the 4 favourites for winning the title this season, along with ourselves, Moneyfields and AFC Bournemouth. So, yeah, it's going to be a very competitive game.
It sounds like you're facing a tough test, obviously, with the opposition, also with the injuries, as you mentioned, but will it feel like just a natural resumption of the season, or will it feel like a sort of restart, if you like?
It feels a little bit odd because, clearly it had been 4 weeks since we'd seen the players until last Wednesday. And, it's great to get everyone back out on the pitch together and to do something that they all enjoy, but they know that the serious stuff happens again this coming Sunday. And they're up for working hard for that. And, we're looking forward to get back on the training pitch. We've got a few ideas to work on ahead of Sunday's game. And, yeah, it does feel a bit disjointed, if you like. And I'm sure that there will be other teams that will suffer as a result of that, because not everyone is able to train. Not everyone is able to keep as coordinated as we've perhaps been fortunate enough to have been. So, yeah, I think it's going to be tough for everyone, especially if there are further lockdowns. But like most of the population, I'm hoping that the vaccine rollout is actually going to help afford an awful lot of protection and manage this virus so that we can actually get back to something like normality and enjoy our football more fully.
Definitely, and also Sunday sounds like a great opportunity for some of the younger players to really sort of stake their claim, if you like, in the first team for you.
Oh, absolutely. We've got some good youngsters in the under-18, there's no doubt about that. 2 of them appeared for us for the first time last Wednesday, in young Kiana Fryer and Chloe Mackay. And both of them handled themselves very well during that game. In fact, Kiana actually set one of the 9 goals up in the second half. So, yeah, we've got very encouraging signs of good quality in the under-18 side. And, in fact, their goalkeeper, Amy Whale, has been playing for us right since the start of the season, when Amy Patkin picked up an injury and has been out all that time. So Amy played her first game back for us for the second half on Wednesday night. That's the first time she's played since pre-season friendly against Sutton right back in August. So we've got an under-18 goalkeeper who's been performing really, really well in young Amy Whale.
I guess it'd be really interesting for yourself and Jack to see how the players respond after the break as well. Obviously, you've had the sort of pre-season game, if you like, against Penn as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Abingdon had a very close-fought battle last week away to Winchester, who ironically we play the following weekend on the 20th. And that was a 1-0 victory for Abingdon, which keeps them with their 100% record, and someone's 100% record is going to go on Sunday, and we're going to be working incredibly hard to make sure it's not ours.
Sounds like there should be goals anyway.
There could well be. Hopefully not our end. I'm hoping the defensive work that we've done will stand us in good stead and give us the platform with which to hit Abingdon and to see the game out. But we've got a game plan which we're going to be rehearsing again tomorrow night. And if that goes to plan on Sunday, then happy days, really.
No, absolutely. Hopefully it'll be a third win in a row, although it might not feel like a row. Great to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
OK, Colin, thank you.
Dave Ward speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound, and they're off training this evening.
Yes, a big hello to the Wycombe Wanderers ladies who are on their way to Flackwell Heath. It's the college there, isn't it? Well, that's where they train.
That's where they play, yeah.
Yes.
Or do they train at there?
I think they train there as well.
Oh, okay.
I think. I may have got that wrong. It must be weird.
Hopefully they know.
Must be weird their season, the fact that, it got delayed really because of the FA Cup, first of all. And then, they just got going again with the league season, and then everything came to a sort of a grinding halt again. So we will keep our fingers crossed that actually that's it now, and the league season just continues as it should do.
Yes, and they get at least a top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good luck to them against Abingdon.
We'll be following their progress throughout the season, of course. Some admin news. You want to talk about the corner flag?
Oh, indeed, yes. I wanted to mention the corner flag because the exciting things always happen at Wycombe Wanderers games. And yesterday we had an injury to the corner flag. Obviously, we'd already had an injury to the goal net, you might remember, in an earlier game where Ryan Alsop came off, or I think the net really came off far worse than Ryan Alsop.
Yes, he seemed fine, didn't he, in that challenge?
Last night, one of the corner flags decided to fall over, and then the linesman could not get it back in the proper hole, and so groundsman in the end then had to come on, and the game stopped, and you thought, where's the injured player? And you were looking around and then realised that actually it was the corner flag.
What drama
that had an injury. So that was quite exciting.
Fantastic. We're asking you the first Wycombe Wanderers game you saw, and we've had a response already.
We do indeed. Good evening to Alan Cecil. Alan says it was the 1991 FA Trophy final at Wembley, when of course Wickham won 2-1 over Kidderminster Harriers. Again, a very good first game to go to.
Absolutely.
I'm impressed with both you and Alan.
Been to finals.
First games that you went to were finals. I think that's, I wish I could say the same, but no.
You can tweet us at Wycombe Sound. You can email studio@wycombesound.org.uk. You can get in touch with us via Facebook. Write us a letter. We probably won't get it till next week.
Anyway,
yeah.
Pigeons. We're open for all. Pigeons, owls.
Yeah. Anything that works.
If you're a wizard.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Second part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. I must say a very big thank you to Alan Hutchinson and to JDT from the Ex-Players Association for assistance in speaking to foreign players. And the latest in our series of aforementioned foreign players is Dave Burgess, who we believe played in the first game that I went to see, which was the Capital League President's Cup final.
Have you forgotten one?
Of 1987. A fantastic occasion. But let's find out how Dave Burgess, who you might recall was a defender of the 80s. That makes him sound like someone a campaigner, doesn't he? It's a defender of the 80s.
He was at Greenham, Colin. He was at all of those.
There's quite a lengthy story about how he became a Wycombe Wanderers player.
I had a link, really, with John Maskell. He'd seen me play a few times. I think he was running the reserve side at Wickham at the time and asked me to go training, and I came over to Lakes Park training a couple of times and wasn't really sure whether I was up to that sort of standard, and couldn't make my mind up whether to come over or not. And at that time, the cricket friend of mine called Nigel Cassidy, who was at Oxford, became the manager of Banbury, and he enticed me to go there rather than to Wickham. So I went to Banbury to start with. That only lasted about a year because I think he got the sack or moved on or whatever. And then John Maskell and Ian Rundle and John Delaney was the manager of Oxford City. So I then went to Oxford City for 3 years, 3 seasons, all of which time there was talk of me going to Wickham, but I didn't actually go. I went on a couple of Wickham tours to other countries, to Portugal, to Tunisia. Really enjoyed them, and eventually I think I just decided it was time to go, and I went to Wickham when Paul Bentz became manager. So it took me a long time to get there, but that was it really. About 5 years I think it was from the first chance I had, and if I'm honest, that was a mistake. I should have gone the first time.
And I bet when you joined, you couldn't have imagined that you'd be playing over 100 times for the club.
No, I didn't sell brilliantly to start with. To be honest, it was quite a difficult time because the whole team, when Paul Bence became manager, was nearly the whole team, apart from probably from memory Gary Lester and Bobby Dale. Virtually everybody else was new, and we took a while to settle actually. So I didn't. You never really know how long you're going to stay. I mean, I sort of thought by that stage I could play at that standard. When I first went to my couple of training sessions with John Maskell, I thought, well, this is above me, really, to be honest. But by then, I'd sort of played about 150 games for Oxford City in the Isthmian League and thought, well, yeah, I can play at this level, and enjoyed it, and decided to make the move to Wickham, which I probably should have done about 5 years previously. But there we go. You can't have your time again, can you?
No, certainly. It must have been, would you describe it as perhaps a sort of turbulent time during the club while you were there? You saw relegation, but also promotion as well.
Yeah, it was a bit up and down, wasn't it? It was the first season, we didn't do very well at the start of the season. I can remember some, there's quite a statistic, I can't remember exact statistics, but we didn't do very well up to Christmas, and we were probably, I don't know, not halfway at the league, just above halfway at the league. And there was somebody wrote in the Bucks Free Press that they should change the whole side apart from about 3 of us, I think it was. I was lucky I was one of the 3 mentioned that shouldn't be changed. But we didn't change the whole side, we just all stuck together, and I think after Christmas we lost about 1 game or had a couple of draws and finished second, I think it was, and got promotion to the conference. So we turned things around quite well in that season, from a dodgy start to a strong finish.
No, definitely. It must be nice to have got promoted. I think you were Isthmian League champions as well, weren't you, sir?
Yeah, that was, I think that, if my memory serves me rightly, we went up when we weren't champions. We had a season in the conference when we got relegated on the last game of the season, by which time other sides were playing after we'd finished, and I remember I was playing cricket, and I went into a call box somewhere in Banbury to ring up another player, I can't remember who it was, another player to find out how this other side got on, which I can't remember which side it was, but if they drew, I think we were relegated, and they did draw, and we were relegated on goal difference on what was the last day of the season, or about the second Saturday of my cricket season. So that was not a very good first year in the conference, but then we went back into the Isthmian League, and that was really when I think Wickham as a club decided that they would try and progress back to the conference and move the club forward, because a lot of new players appeared in that closed season. That was the season when I had 2 Achilles tendon operations, so I was a bit in and out of the team and a bit in and out of being available during that season.
I see you scored 9 goals though, which is quite good going for a defender.
Did I?
so it says here.
I can remember some. I think I reckon I only scored 1 in the conference, but I did score. I think you must have scored a few. I reckon if I scored 9, I probably headed about 50 over the bar from corners, and that, because I don't know, my whole career I could not head the ball down properly at attacking corners. I think my excuse was because I spent the rest of the time, the other 85 minutes as a defender, heading it up, because you don't head it down as a defender, because if you head up in the air, it gives yourself some time and some space to reorganise. So defending-wise, you should head it up. But attacking-wise, you've got to head it down, and I could not head it down. I headed everything over the bar.
Perhaps you could blame the sloping pitch. Perhaps you were overcompensating.
The first time I saw Legs Park, which was when I came to one of these training sessions with John Maskell, I'd say probably 5 years before I came to Wickham. I'd never been there in my life. I drove into the car park, and I could not believe my eyes. Honestly, I couldn't believe the slope on it. Yeah, when you've been playing there a couple of years, it was perfectly okay. But it was a frightening slope to see visually when you come through the old gates, park in the little car park at the top, where you look down and crikey, it was I couldn't believe that they played football on it. But anyway.
Are there any particular games which stand out as being particularly memorable during your time at the club?
Well, there is one little sequence of games that stands out, and it stands out not because it was a really important game particularly, or not because it was a brilliant game, but it was just a bit of a freaky result of fixtures. When I was at Oxford City, I think Oxford City played in the trophy, but we never got anywhere near being any successful runs in the trophy. But Wickham always had a name, always had history of being successful in these going back to the Amateur Cup even and things like that. But I think it was the first year I was at Wickham. We won a couple of games in the trophy, and we ended up getting to the third round, and we ended up playing Leek Town, right? Now, I don't know what league they were in. They were in one of the Midlands leagues. But what I remember about it was it's the only game I've ever played in my life that was played on top of snow. There must have been 1.5 inches, 2 inches of snow at Lokes Park. The lines were all marked out in blue, and we played with a brown ball. And it was a strange game. And it ended up 2-2. So in those days, there was no penalty shootouts or anything like that. So that was a replay the following Wednesday at Leek Town. And we got to Leek Town, and it was absolutely unreal. 90% of the pitch was so muddy it went over the top of your boots. And that game ended 5-5.
Wow.
Then there was another replay the next week, which was now on a neutral ground at Worcester City's ground. That ended 1-1, I think. And that meant the following week there was another replay, which we won 1-0. That little sequence of games in that trophy sticks in my mind, really. Is not the biggest game I ever played in, not the best game I ever played in, but a game that or a little sequence I've never forgotten. Probably the biggest games I enjoyed were when we got to the third round proper of the FA Cup. We didn't really get drawn against one of the big sides, but it was still a good run in the Cup, because I'd never really had a Cup run before when I was at the other sides I played at.
Because lots of times in Wickham's history, you can point to really good sort of cup successes, can't you? And that sort of period as well was one I was saying to you off air. I think the first game that I went to, or the first game that I saw, was in '87. It was the Capital League President's Cup final, and that was against Barnet. And I remember my dad pointing out Glenn Hoddle's brother. And I know you were saying that you played against Glenn Hoddle himself.
Yeah,
as well.
we were lucky enough because Brian Lee, I think, was like I'm not sure of his technical term, director or whatever it was at Bishop Abbey. We managed to always come up against Football League sides that were spending a bit of time at Bishop Abbey in either pre-season or maybe when the weather was bad in January, and get some sort of quality friendlies there. We played against Tottenham in a friendly when they had an unbelievable side out. And Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles, Ricky Villiers, they were really a first-class team. That was the year, I think, that Clive Allen scored 45 goals or something in the old First Division. So, yeah, it was quite an experience. But, yeah, I spent my whole afternoon, I think, backpedaling for Glenn Hoddle's little chips over the top, because he didn't chip anything onto your head of your centre-half. He chipped everything just over your shoulder or just over the back where you couldn't reach it. He was unbelievable, really. His skill level was fantastic.
Yeah, it must have been great to be part of that game. You mentioned that Paul Bence was the manager when you started. You played under a few managers as well, and I guess they were all very different.
I didn't know Paul Bence at all. I think my connection was John Maskell and Brian Lee was how I ended up getting there. But Paul Bence was a very nice guy, very easygoing sort of chap. I think he played loads of games for Brentford, 200 or 300 games for Brentford as a professional. So he obviously knew what he was doing, and I enjoyed playing under him. And I'm not quite sure why he left, but he left, and Alan Gain, who was his assistant, became manager, and they were quite similar in a way. Alan Gain was probably a little bit more outgoing than Paul Bence, but they were the two managers who were there for most of the time. And then I did have a little spell when my last period there was when Peter Suddaby was manager. Peter Suddaby was actually taught me maths for about 6 months when I went to school at Cheney in Oxford, because he was on the teacher training placement at that time, and he taught me maths for a while. So I sort of reminded of that when I first met him, but I don't think he could remember it, to be fair. But yeah, he taught me, and he taught. There was another guy in my class who did end up being a professional footballer of some note, but that was Clive Walker, who played at Chelsea. He ended up teaching both of us maths for 6 months, I think it was.
Oh, we had a sort of opposite thing at school. We had a teacher who used to be a Wycombe Wanderers player.
Did you? Who was that then?
Right. Dave Alexander?
Now
we called him Mr. Alexander, obviously. But...
Yeah, I played with him.
Oh, really?
Not at Wickham, but I played with him. He came to Oxford City. John Maskell, I'm sure, got him to come to Oxford City. He was a very good midfielder.
Oh, brilliant.
That's the same guy, I think, on the ball. Very good on the ball.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. One of the best things I did was introduce Dave Jones, the physio, to Wickham. Because Dave Jones and me used to play for Kidlington together. And I got him to go to one conference game on a Thursday night or something, right at the end of one season when the physio guy who was normally couldn't do it, and then the next season that physio guy, Shady, we used to call him, that was his name, was Dave, I think it was. He couldn't do it, so Dave Jones came from nowhere to be sort of offered a physio job. I was at the end of my playing thing, and Dave stayed 22 years or 21 years or something after that.
That's fantastic. Oh, well done you. That's a claim to fame.
No, I still see him now. Yeah, he only lives in Woodstock. In fact, I knew the physio before him, because the reason he ended up being a physio was because he came from Kidlington. I played for Kidlington. I didn't actually come from Kidlington. And the Wickham physio, if you go back a little bit further, there was a guy called John Clinkard. He started at Wickham whilst he was playing football for Kidlington, because I played football with him at Kidlington. Dave Jones played football with him at Kidlington. But then John Clinkard got very successful. He went to Everton. When he went to Everton, then I think he went back to Oxford United after that as a physio. But Dave Jones hurt his back, and because he'd been playing in the same team as John Clinkard, he got a bit inspired by this bloke being a physio. So that's why I think he started being a physio.
Oh, that's really good.
That's how I got Dave into it, and I'd say he stayed, 20-odd years, he said, isn't he?
So how did your departure at the club come about?
My departure came after Peter Sotheby. I can't remember. I don't know whether he was sacked or he just finished. I can't remember exactly. But Peter Sotheby finished. I'd had 2 Achilles tendon operations. I was nearly 31, and it came through an honest assessment of my ability that I just couldn't play at that level anymore. And in fact, what happened was I hadn't pre-planned this, but I just said I'm going to leave when the manager changed. I wrote to Brian Lee, I wrote him a note and said I'm leaving, because I thought he was really my main contact for getting in the first place. He was still involved with the club. I said I was going to finish, and I went back to Oxford City actually, but I wasn't planned on doing that because they got here that I finished. They wanted me to go back there. I went back there. I played about half a dozen games at the end of 1 year, and then they lost their ground to the landlord, which I think was Brasenose College, so that went out of existence. And I never actually played. I didn't play 12 games after I left Wickham, I shouldn't think. I was injured, and then at the end of that season, I packed up. I retired, if you like, if you call it retired, by the time I was 31, because my Achilles tendon operation, despite Wickham were fantastic to me about doing them, because they paid for them to be done. I had them done privately, and I had private physio at Stroud, which was all organised by Wickham. The club were brilliant, but I had calf muscle strains after that. It was just a non-starter really after those 2 operations.
And since you've been doing roofing?
Yeah, I've always been in construction. I was a building surveyor by training from when I was 16. I worked for a local Oxford contractor for 27 years, and I've been with I've got the roofing company that I run now. I've been there 20 years, so I've only really had two jobs. I didn't have that many football teams, certainly didn't have that many jobs either. Not by current standards anyway, the amount people change around from club to club.
No, exactly. And it must be so impressive to see the team now in the second tier of English football.
Brilliant. Shame we can't go and watch. That's the only disappointment over it. I've watched a few games on, I think it's iFollow, and they're doing really well now. They seem to have settled into more recently, they seem to be competitive at that level, and I'm really pleased they're doing well. I've since I've stopped playing, I've actually watched quite a lot of Wickham over the last 20 years. Not regularly on a Saturday, but I've watched a few midweek games, and I've always watched quite a few games because my eldest son particularly, but my 2 sons both are now Wickham and all Wickham supporters rather than Oxford supporters, which everybody else is around here. They take great pleasure in being a Wickham supporter and having had the wood over Oxford for most of the last 10 years, which I think Gareth Ainsworth has worked absolute miracles really with the players he's had there. I think from what I've seen of it. But yeah, no, the whole club's had a fantastic ride, hasn't it? It's been a great journey, I should think, for everybody involved.
The current group seems to have such a great team spirit. Is that something that you had during your time as well, in the group that you had?
Yeah. I think that was primary or of almost primary consideration for a long time. If you're going to Wickham, if you're going to play for Wickham, it was as important what your character was like as compared to what your ability was like. It was seen as at least in equal standards, and that, in my view, is a good philosophy to have in life. It's not all about how good you are, it's about having the right attitude and about having the right team spirit and belief.
It's really nice, isn't it, to have players that fans can identify with as well. Obviously, Akinfenwa was a big hero for a lot of youngsters, and I guess in your day as well, that was when Mark West was just starting to start.
He was just starting. He was about 18 at the time, but he stayed there ages. He was just starting. I think he came from West Ham or something like that, was it? As a sort of teenager. But yeah, I didn't realise that he would end up with having the career he had. But I still see it. I've still seen him at the Wycombe ex-players things, and he hasn't changed at all, hardly, I don't think, to be perfectly honest. He was very successful in his period there, wasn't he?
No, absolutely. That must be really nice about the ex-players association as well, because you get to sort of catch up with former teammates, but also chat to different generations as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a fantastic organisation which really looks after people. They're really good to you. The dinner is unbelievably well organised by John Taylor and Hutch. It's just fantastically organised, and it makes everybody feel part of a family. Really, I think that is the Wickham sort of players' family. They're fantastic nights. All the functions are really good. I did the golf. So I haven't resorted to the bowls yet. Although the bowls, I think Bob Dow is one of the good bowls players. So the bowls players could be younger than me yet. But I enjoy the golf day. I did a few of the quiz nights. I'm not a great quizzer, but I did a bit of John Maskell's quiz night as well a couple of times.
No, it's really nice. And there seems to be something so special about the club, doesn't it? And every sort of decade has a very, very kind of special kind of, I don't know, cup run or group of players. And
it's just a successful club. It has always been whatever. It's always had success. I think. I mean, crikey, it's gone from FA Cup runs with Middlesbrough, hasn't it, to getting the semi-final against Liverpool and Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final. It's always had something that every so often that punctuates an era almost. So yeah, it's always been a cracking club, and I think it's always been, from my point of view, going back to when before it went in the league, it was always if you're a good enough player in Oxford, that was the place to go and play, and that was that was where the John Maskells and Ian Rundles, who both played for Oxford City, went. I went down that route. There were a few other people who went down that route as well, and it was always sort of seen as a step up because it was a bigger club, and it's continued to step up over the last 30, 40 years, hasn't it? It just doesn't know when to stop stepping up, does it?
No, I don't think there's a limit to how far it can go, but I think there probably is.
Absolutely.
There's only one league left.
Yeah, well, that would be unbelievable.
But you must look back at your time there with overall, very, very happy memories.
Fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Slight regret I didn't move when I first had the chance. 5 years. I could have had 8 or 9 years there rather than nearly 4. But no, it was a fantastic club.
Well, it's been brilliant to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.
No, nice to speak to you, Colin, as well. Thanks very much.
Great to speak to Dave, our second Dave of the evening.
That was excellent, and I feel a little bit sorry for him, what he said at the end. He clearly loved it so much that he regretted only being there for 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
People do like being at Wickham, don't they?
They do indeed, yes.
A great family club.
Yes.
I'm very pleased today we can speak to one of the club's directors and director of Wycombe Wanderers Trust as well, Trevor Stroud. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for can you remember your first game?
That is a very good question. I was back about the 90s. The honest answer is no, I can't.
Well, that's perfectly acceptable as an answer.
But it was just as I think there was one at Lokes Park, and just as we moved to Adams Park. So it was when there was just 4 small stands as opposed to the various stands we've got now.
Oh, I'm jealous about the Lokes Park bit, Trevor. I never got to Lokes Park, and I always sort of like trying. If I ever drive past the hospital, I try and picture about where Lokes Park was, and these days you just can't really imagine that there was ever a football ground there.
No, and finally we were looking through some memorabilia and we came across the plate that was commemorating the final game at Lokes Park. So we're going to try and find a way of putting that on display at the club as well.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
there's lots of stuff in there about that sort of era of the history, which is sitting in a cupboard. And if we can find somewhere to display it, that would be excellent. Once we can get people back into the ground.
Yeah,
or more people.
That's a really good idea, and fans love that sort of stuff. So anything that you've got that's sitting in a cupboard, please try and find some way to display it.
And there's a great one of when Andy Rammell jumped into the snow.
Oh yes.
In the cup game, I think it was against Wolves, and there's a full-size picture of him just having landed in the snow, which is a classic.
Yeah, no, we definitely want to see all of these in the Wycombe Wanderers Museum. Speak to Pete Couhig and see if we can get it arranged.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, fantastic. So you are on this evening to tell us about a very exciting event that is happening on a Monday evening.
Yes, I am. I mean, the Trust Board, as obviously being owners of the club for part of last season, felt that we should actually commemorate what those players achieved. Because to move from League 2 to League 1, stay in League 1 and then get into the Championship was a tremendous achievement. So we've commissioned a unique personalised memento for each of the players. Those have been presented to the team and they've kept it under wraps, which is great. And also we've sent them to the players who aren't with us now. So not so the likes of Cedo John Barty, Jamie Maskell and the other lone players as well. So everyone who was in the squad and the management team have received one of these mementos. And what we've done is we've put it into a streamed event, which, as you say, is on Monday evening at 7 o'clock, where you'll be able to see those presentations taking place, and fans will also have the opportunity to buy a replica, which is personalised to them or with their favourite player on. And the reaction from the players, I think, has been absolutely tremendous.
It's a lovely idea, and I think it's fantastic. And I completely agree with what you're saying, that it should be commemorated and marked. Not that obviously Wickham getting into the Championship would ever in any way be forgotten, but the fact obviously that the fans weren't able to be there, you could just tell actually, at the game against Stoke City, when finally 1,000 fans were able to be in the ground, when Gareth walked around before the game kicked off, and they just, to a person, they all stood and they all applauded and cheered, and you could just tell that actually they were thanking him for what happened in the summer. So I think it's wonderful that actually the club also is marking it in this way.
Yeah, and what we've done is we've put a whole evening around those presentations. So there's a lot more as well. So we've shot a video behind the scenes of all the improvements that have taken place at Adams Park over the summer, of which there are an enormous number. People have seen odd pictures of what's been done. But this is a video which includes drone footage and everything else of exactly what's changed. At the end of season dinner, there's normally an award for the Volunteer of the Year, and that didn't happen because the event didn't happen. So we've made that presentation. We surprised somebody today with that, and the reaction from that was absolutely brilliant. We have a virtual tour of the Rebellion Brewery, one of our partners, and as part of the deal, if people are quick and order their tickets before 5:30 tomorrow, they get the chance to order a discounted case of beer delivered to their door, free of charge. Well, you pay for the beer, the delivery is free of charge. We've got unseen footage of the team in action. We have a musical interlude from the gaffer and the Cold-Blooded Hearts. We have a message from Rob Couhig. And then the second half of the evening is, I believe, the highlight. For the first time ever, we've managed to get Messrs Turnbull, Ainsworth and O'Neill all talking together, probably at the same time, knowing the three of them. But Bill Turnbull, Gareth Ainsworth and Martin O'Neill in conversation for, I think it's about 40 minutes. And I understand, I haven't seen it all, but I understand it's football gold.
Fantastic. And having spoken to Martin O'Neill on this programme a short time ago, I'm quite impressed that you managed to squeeze it into 40 minutes because we were so impressed with Martin. We thought we would only have him for about 10 or 15 minutes, and he ended up giving us a good half an hour plus.
Absolutely, and they are just pure gold. I was fortunate enough to attend John Reardon's funeral last week. John, an absolute icon of the club over many decades, and Martin read a tribute out. He had, I think, about an 8-page tribute, and then he remembered stories, and it kept sort of adding and adding and adding. Absolutely brilliant, and a real send off to a Wickham icon.
Yeah, I mean, that's lovely to hear, and just speaks volumes again about Martin O'Neill, the fact that, yes, he did that and then actually came up with lots of other stories as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, as he would go on forever. If you, and as I say, perhaps he ought to do a series, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. We'd be quite happy to have him in here doing an audiobook or something like that. We'll just leave him going. And
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have Martin O'Neill FM. You can tune into him as and when you want. And Bill Turnbull, fantastic that he's taking part as well. And be very interesting to hear. The two of them with Gareth as well. Just hearing their comments about the championship and about the promotion.
Yes, I think there's lots of banter, as you would expect. On the Trust website, there is a sort of a teaser, a snippet of that conversation, and there's laughter all around. And so I think it will be a memorable evening.
And this event sounds like a real opportunity for the fans to kind of come together, whereas, up until comparatively recently, they couldn't at all at Adams Park, and a great opportunity for them to enjoy, what's been achieved.
Absolutely, and it's also an opportunity to raise funds for the Trust. People probably need to remember that we are still 25% owners of the club, but over time there is going to be a need for money to come into the club, and as 25% owners, if we want to keep that 25%, we will need to match what goes in from Rob. So it's important that we raise funds so that as and when that happens, and Robert Couig has made it very clear that he doesn't see that happening soon, and he will give us as much notice as he can. So he's been very supportive in that. But there will come a time when we need the funds. So we've got the Protect the Quarter Fund, and any profits we make from the evening will go into that.
Speaking of which, you must be really pleased to see on a lot of the media coverage, which the game where 1,000 fans were allowed, that a lot of supporters had the quartered face coverings as well.
Absolutely, and I have to pay tribute to everyone who came to the game against Stoke. We planned very hard for it. But without the cooperation and being respectful from the fans that turned up for other people and their safety, it wouldn't have been as much of a success as it was. And obviously we've now got 2,000 fans coming on Saturday, and it's important that people continue to do that, because if we can create a safe environment, then that 2,000 will continue all the time that we're in Tier 2. And should we ever move back into Tier 1, then we can increase the capacity even further.
And I suppose it's important, again, to stress to those fans who can attend that actually they do need to let the club know whether or not they can go and abide by all of those rules as well, because just as with the 1,000 fans against Stoke, you want to be hitting that 2,000 fans in Adams Park supporting us against Coventry.
Absolutely. I mean, for the Stoke game, we targeted 1,000. We actually ended up with 960. Which is probably as close as you're going to get for people who can't turn up for unexpected reasons or car breaks down or whatever. And yes, we're very keen that if we get through the first tranche and people say no, then we can move further down the season ticket list. And I'm confident that most people who want to attend who are season ticket holders on Saturday will actually get to see the game.
Yeah, and I was very impressed as well with the Stoke game, the way that you were doing it, so that actually there were still emails going out at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of the game, because you were so committed to getting as many people in as possible. I thought that was marvellous.
Yeah, and we would do that again for Coventry. So if people haven't received their email yet about a ticket, keep watching. The other thing is keep looking in your spam box, because sometimes with emails, they don't go into the right address, they disappear into your spam, and you say, I haven't received it. So keep checking, and we'll try and update via the club exactly where we are and what we're doing. And yes, let's get 2,000 in supporting us against Coventry.
It's a real credit, isn't it, to everyone working behind the scenes as well, to be able to logistically to get this to actually happen in the time frame that's been allocated.
It is, and I mean, there's an awful lot of hard work by the office staff and the stadium management team. But we work very closely with the Safety Advisory Group, which is made up of Buckinghamshire County Council representatives, police, fire, ambulance. Also the SGAA, which is the Sports Ground Safety Association, which is the government arm. And they have been very supportive. They've been quite firm with us, which is absolutely right. But in the timescale we've had available, they've moved very quickly and actually got us the approval to move to the 2,000. So we appreciate all that support from them as well.
With regards then to the event on Monday, what do people have to do to be able to get the stream and also, of course, to get the beer as well?
Right, the details on the Trust website, which is www.wycombewandererstrust.com. They can also go onto the Facebook page and the Twitter page of the Trust, and all the details are there. You click on the link and it takes you through to the event page. There are two choices of ticket. One is just general admission, which is £10.99, and the other one, which might be a bit confusing, says plus beer deal, which is also £10.99. But you then get an email back explaining exactly how you place your order with Rebellion Brewery and get your discount and free delivery.
Fantastic. What could be more? Football and beer, that sounds good to me. Trevor, as always, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us on the Wycombe Wanderers Show this evening.
Not at all. Great to talk to you.
Likewise, Trevor Stroud, Director of the club and of the Trust, speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound. Hope you've enjoyed the programme. It's gone very quick, hasn't it?
It has indeed. We look forward to the game against Coventry, and very important again, if you have got one of those emails and you can't go to the match, then do let the club know, because we do want 2,000 fans into Adams Park. Of course, partly because actually we've got a fairly poor record against Coventry. It will be really, really nice to finally do one over on them. So let's make sure that Adams Park is rocking with 2,000 people in it on Saturday afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed for getting in touch with your first game memories as well.
Yes, indeed. Particularly enjoyed all of the final ones that people have been to. Very impressed with that.
Yes, get to a final first. That's our message. Thank you so much for listening. Do check out the podcast. That'll be available very soon as well. More Wycombe Wanderers Show at the same time next week here at Wycombe Sound.